So at this point, it's my pleasure to present an update on the status of the College of Engineering. Things are really great, and I think that's pretty much going to be the theme of the presentation. The title slide here shows an architect's rendition of the addition to G.G. Brown. The most amazing thing is the building is now complete, and it looks exactly like this. So that's a really good thing. If you have an opportunity this weekend, you can walk in. The main doors are on the north side of the building up on Hayward Avenue, and it's a remarkable building, probably the nicest piece of architecture, perhaps other than this building that we have on North Campus. And it is a set of laboratories for work at the interface between mechanical engineering and biology and mechanical engineering and overall nanoscience. But there are a lot of other things in there to look at, including some really, really good artwork if you happen to be inclined in that direction. Here's a chart just showing what role we play in terms of numbers in the College of Engineering within the University of Michigan. So all the COE numbers are over on the right. We celebrated our 150th anniversary actually about 10 years ago. And you see some pretty big numbers in terms of students. We have 6,200 students this fall in engineering at the undergrad level, and the graduate level almost 3,200, pretty evenly split between MS and Ph.D. Our tenure track faculty members, that number has been growing slowly over time, but very steadily. In fact, all through the recession, unlike most schools in the nation, we grew our faculty. In my time as dean, which is now about 8 years, we have grown the tenure track faculty from around 315 to almost 400 now, and we expect to grow a little bit further. Another number that is important to us is the bottom number, research expenditures. Our faculty spend a lot of time, a lot of effort on garnering mostly federal research grants and contracts to support our graduate programs and our research mission. And you see in engineering, our expenditures were about $218 million last year, which is a terrific number. The campus number is now official for this last fiscal year. I had shown the one from fiscal year 13. The campus number is $1.3 billion, and a whole lot of that, of course, is in the medical school. We have 2 new associate deans, and personally I'm very happy to have some women associate deans. The women faculty in engineering tend to be somewhat less senior than the men faculty, and so it's been hard to get more women into leadership positions. But Dawn Tilbury actually started in January as Associate Dean for Research and Graduate Education. But that job has become so large that we decided it would be prudent to split that into 2 positions. And so Dawn is now doing the research side, and Jennifer Linderman is the Associate Dean for Graduate Education, which is working out really well. We have 2 new department chairs in Material Science and Engineering, Amit Misra, who came to us from one of the national labs, and Lonnie Shea in Biomedical Engineering, who came to us from Northwestern University. Lonnie's spouse is a medical researcher, and she is a professor in the medical school, so that's all working out great. One other comment about biomed, in case you hadn't stayed tuned in that area. The biomed department now is joint with the medical school. We made that change a couple of years ago, and we're in the process of doubling the size of the department. A lot of the new hires are being hired on the med school side of that department, so that's very, very exciting. Here are the enrollment trends, and you see we just keep moving up. The blue bar is undergraduate students, the number of undergraduate students, and the scale for that is on the left side. We expect that to cap out for a little while. We actually can't accommodate very many more students in our current facilities. And so part of our objective in the next several years is actually to build new facilities, and we'll talk about that later on. The other 2 bars, the greenish yellow bar is number of master's students. There was one year when one of our departments decided to take a whole lot of master's students, and then they decided, wow, they had too many, and they backed off. So you see a peak there. But other than that, it's been just kind of a slow, steady increase. Number of doctoral students we expect to grow slowly over time as we continue to add faculty. But these are all very healthy numbers for us, and these numbers are the largest in the college's history. They're among the larger numbers in the United States. We worry a lot about diversity, and every fall you hear me talk about this because we work so hard on it. The blue bar at the top is percentage of our undergraduate students who are women, and what you see is something that almost looks like a sinusoid. I have never met anyone who can explain the shape of that curve. The most mysterious thing is back in the late 1990s, percentage of women here at Michigan in engineering was getting close to 30%. Then there was a long decline. That decline mirrored a national decline, so it wasn't just here at Michigan. And now we have a big uptick here in the last couple of years. The last two entering classes have been 29% women, which we're really happy with. And in fact, we'd like to see that number even larger. With the green bar, you see a pretty steady decline, and now it's leveled off for the last 6 or 8 years. That is the percentage of our undergraduate population that are underrepresented minorities, primarily African Americans and Hispanic Americans. And we're not happy with these numbers. Lots of other universities across the nation are in a similar position and not happy either. Part of this has to do with K through 12 school systems in center cities. There are some other things at work. In the case of the state of Michigan, one thing at work is that back around 2006, the state passed a ballot initiative that outlaws affirmative action in admissions and affirmative action in awarding of financial aid. That applies not just to URM students, but also to women students, and that's made it a bit of a challenge for the state universities in this state. But that's an area where we continue to work hard. We're very involved in Detroit, and we are, with our robotics activities in Detroit, seeing students from Detroit matriculating into Michigan engineering and doing okay here, which is a really good thing. This is the set of numbers at the graduate student level, and you see the percentage of women among our grad student body has increased pretty steadily. And of course, there's a little bit of a lag between undergrad and grad if you were to compare the two charts. We don't see quite the same sinusoidal pattern here, and that's probably a complicated thing to try to figure out. In terms of the percentage of the graduate population that are underrepresented minorities, we actually see a good trend, an upward trend. And we work really, really hard at that. It's a lot of one-on-one personal contact. The law in Michigan doesn't prevent us from spending more effort on recruiting. And at the graduate student level, especially with Ph.D. students, we do a lot of one-on-one recruiting, and we've been pretty successful there. It's really, really hard to get into Michigan engineering now as an undergrad student. So the median high school GPA, the middle high school GPA is 3.9 out of 4. And you may look at this and say, well, I've seen other schools that say their median GPA is 4.2 or 4.3, something above 4. This is unweighted. We're not giving any extra credit in these numbers for advanced placement courses. So these are basically, that middle student is almost a straight A student. ACT test scores. The middle student is 33 out of 36. SAT, 1430 out of 1600. These numbers are really close to Ivy League numbers, and so that's pretty much what we're looking at. It makes each springtime very interesting for me personally because I get lots of emails and letters from parents of prospective students and friends of prospective students not understanding why Johnny or Susie with straight A's can't get into Michigan engineering. And actually, with all that demand, we do hope at some point to be able to take a lot more students. This is a chart showing some similar numbers, but for grad students. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but we've been working really hard at improving the quality of our incoming graduate student population. The red bar on the left is the undergraduate GPA, or the mean undergraduate GPA for entering PhD students, and the blue bar is for entering master's students. And you see a pretty big uptick there, and that is intentional. We are working really, really hard at recruiting those students. These are the student selectivity trends. And actually, I know when I first started to look at these, I was amazed. If we go back to 2009, just 5 years ago, and for purposes of today, let's just focus on the red bar. The red bar is the percentage of applicants that, I should say the percentage of undergraduate applicants that are admitted. And it's amazing. 5 years ago, we were actually admitting more than 50%. Now, there's a little bit more of a story here. People know that Michigan is a really tough school, and so even admitting more than 50% of the students, we were getting really good students. But what's happened now is if you go all the way to the right to 2014, this last entering class, the admissions rate or the selectivity was below 30%. And we think that's going to continue to go down. And actually, we are saying no to many really, really good students, and we prefer not to be in that position. Let me talk just a little bit about our student teams. We always love to talk about them. We have about 50 different multidisciplinary design projects. The solar car team is the best known. That's in the lower left here. Yes, they again won the national championship. It's getting really boring, but we're okay with that. But we have many other kinds of teams. In fact, several different formula race car teams. There's the regular formula, the hybrid formula, the all-electric formula, and that team one of those teams did very well this year. But we have other teams that build rockets, big rockets. That's pretty neat. And we have a lot of teams that do things overseas. These teams are non-competitive, teams that work on civil infrastructure or maybe in clinics and health settings, develop new technology for settings in Central America, in India, and in Africa. So a lot of different kinds of teams. For a lot of these students, they literally receive half of their education on their project team, which is a pretty neat thing. We've also been working hard at kind of the more expansive version of this multidisciplinary design. So in addition to working on a project team, we offer a lot of coursework on design and some other things. We actually offer a minor in multidisciplinary design, and from these statistics, what you see is we now have more than 150 students in the minor. We have more than 1,200 students involved in the program. So whereas some schools like to tout one or two project teams, and that's great, at Michigan, we do things at scale. I don't get too excited unless we have many hundreds or even a couple thousand students doing something, because this is a big place. We ought to try to do it at scale. In our international programs, you all know we've been really pushing our students out of Ann Arbor. That's hard to do. Our students love Ann Arbor. They don't necessarily want to leave. Well, maybe this fall's a little easier to leave than some other falls for a particular reason. But seriously, they're in love with the university, they're in love with Ann Arbor, and so most of our students have their international experiences in the summer. For some students, they have to forego that high-paying job in industry and maybe need that to help support their tuition. So we work hard with companies to create summer jobs overseas. We work with a lot of the multinational companies to do that. And one statistic here is that last academic year, there were 550 students that went abroad from Michigan Engineering. I should also mention that we have a very popular international minor in engineering where students have to study foreign language in a very serious way. There's some coursework they have to take in addition to spending a certain amount of time overseas. That minor is the most popular minor in engineering by some margin, which I think is great. We work really hard in entrepreneurship. We have the largest entrepreneurship program in the nation. There is a program in the business school that caters mostly to MBA students. There's a program in engineering called the Center for Entrepreneurship that is really targeted at the full range of students, undergrad through Ph.D. And you see a few numbers here. Almost 7,000 undergrads enrolled in the last 3 years in various courses and seminars and what have you offered by the Center for Entrepreneurship. We have a program here called I-Corps. This is a program from the National Science Foundation where we train teams of faculty, graduate students, and others from a range of universities across the nation on how to launch a startup. When NSF launched this program, there were originally just 3 sites. We were one of those, and we are the site that has trained more people than anybody else. And you see a number up here. More than 1,000 people have come through our program in just the last 3 years. A number of other statistics up here. We have a Master of Entrepreneurship program that's joint with the business school. We're going to be discontinuing the version we currently have, and launching another version just out of engineering that's going to be more technological, and we think that's actually going to garner larger enrollment. We work very hard on North Campus with the other units up here. All the other units are in the performing and making arts, and so it's music, theater, dance, art and design, architecture. We have an organization together called Arts Engine. We teach a lot of really neat coursework on creativity and some other subjects together. We also have spawned a national organization called A2RU, the Alliance for the Arts in Research Universities. That includes, or is a consortium of about 30 nationwide universities with some very big names there, like Stanford. And we're running all of this out of North Campus here at the University of Michigan. Well, we do look at rankings, in a typical year, the departments in engineering are ranked much higher than our football team. So this is not an unusual year. And we try to actually tell that to our students, because they may come here, rah, rah, rah. Well, be rah, rah about your department, because our departments are highly ranked. And you see that almost all of our departments in both undergrad and grad are in the top 10. About half of them are in the top 5. Some things that we're working on, some big things. One is self-driving cars. And so this is in the news, and people have heard about it. There are projects at various locations around the nation. For example, Google has a big project in this area. And I mentioned to a subgroup earlier this morning that we have a test track that is being completed right up here on North Campus, and is for the purpose of testing self-driving cars and connected vehicles. This is a really neat facility. It covers more than 30 acres. There's a part of it that mimics city streets. We'll have building facades, traffic signals. We have a student group now working on designing and building a fake pedestrian that can dash out into the street in front of one of these vehicles. We have faculty members working on this directly with the automotives in southeastern Michigan. We have on campus fully autonomous cars, so we have them. Now, are they commercially ready? No. But is it interesting? Do they work pretty well? Absolutely. And so this is really, really exciting. Actually, one of the cars we have is shown in the upper left. We have Ford Fusions right off the production line, and the amount of extra equipment used is much less than you might imagine. You see little things sticking up that look a little bit like antennas on the top. Those are laser radars. You might expect that if you open the trunk, it's just burgeoning with computer equipment. Not so. Computer's actually pretty small, and it's pretty amazing what this vehicle can do. We work overall a lot with industry and government. Part of it for us is a reality check. We want our educational programs to be relevant to society. We want to produce students that industry is interested in hiring. Also, we obtain a fair amount of research funding from industry on topics like autonomous driving, for example. Whenever possible, we're interested in transferring the ideas, the basic research, into commercialization. These are some charts just for engineering showing number of invention disclosures, that's the blue bar at the top, number of patent applications, that's the red bar, number of patents issued, that's the green bar, and then the number of technologies actually licensed, either by a large company or maybe by a new startup company. That's the purple bar on the bottom. These numbers are all very competitive nationally. No matter how you measure commercialization at the University of Michigan, we're in the top 10 in every category and often higher than that. So we're doing very well in that arena. Another piece of news is within this past year, we landed a huge, huge research center on lightweight metals. And it's the automotives as well as the aircraft manufacturers and shipbuilders that are interested in this topic. This is one of the so-called Obama Manufacturing Innovation Institutes. And actually, there's a little bit of a story there. One of our faculty members, Sridhar Kota, a professor in mechanical engineering, he was on leave at the White House for a period of 3 years, and he developed the underpinnings of the Obama Manufacturing Initiative for the entire nation. After Sridhar came back, we won one of those big centers. Sridhar, it turned out, was not the principal investigator on this, but instead a newer faculty member here, Alan Taub, former vice president of research at General Motors. We had hired him as a professor just a couple of years earlier. Alan's the PI. We're working with, of all parties, Ohio State and also the Edison Welding Institute in Columbus. But the headquarters are in Michigan, and for various purposes we decided to put the headquarters right in the city of Detroit. So the headquarters are in Detroit. We're really excited to see how this unfolds. I'm spending a lot of my time these days on fundraising. Go figure. So the university is in the midst of its next big fundraising campaign, which will extend until sometime past the university's bicentennial, which is 2017. We expect the campaign to run at least until 2018. And in engineering, we had various target goals in mind for fundraising, but I had a campaign task force consisting of a number of alums, and they pushed us to a really big number, which you see mentioned here. Basically, we had in mind a few $100 million, maybe $400 million, maybe $500 million. But when they heard what we wanted to get accomplished, they said, you can't do it for that kind of money. That's not transformational. So let's talk about $1 billion. And so that is what we're talking about, and we're actually on schedule raising this money. There are two parts to this philanthropic drive within engineering. The left part has a $500 million goal. This is for things that you would kind of normally expect. Student scholarships and fellowships, professorships, money for facilities. All this money will end up in accounts that we control in engineering. But we wanted to have a different paradigm for this fundraising campaign. We in engineering want to work with other units on campus. So there's another $500 million. A big chunk of that will be money that we hope to raise jointly with the medical school and the business school and other partners that we have on campus. In that case, I don't know whether that money will be in an engineering account or some other account, and frankly, I don't care. As long as it benefits our students and faculty in engineering, I'm perfectly happy with that. So as an example, the med school dean and I are actively fundraising together. We have a whole host of topics that we have put together, and we've spent a fair amount of time on this already, and our development staffs are working together, which I think is great. So our goal in engineering is to raise $1 billion. We're about 40% of the way into the campaign, and we do have more than $400 million committed. So that's all going very well. These are the campaign priorities at kind of the high level. First is the student experience. That includes, most importantly, student scholarships and fellowships. Right now, we have enough scholarship money that we are taking care of students from the poorest families, especially in the state of Michigan. And then students from wealthier families, they certainly have less of a problem in attending Michigan. It's that middle set of students that we're very concerned about, and so we are actively raising money for more scholarships as well as graduate fellowships. In the area of societal imperatives, that's more programmatic. The society is facing really big challenges in healthcare and security, renewable energy, and the list goes on, and we're looking for money in those areas as well. Entrepreneurship and economic development, we're doing great, but if you want to really be or have a premier society in this worldwide economy, you've got to stay on the leading edge. You have to innovate. You have to have the ideas. And so we want to continue to do that here. Economic development really relates to the state of Michigan and especially this area of Michigan, where we've been working very hard to diversify the economy of the state and have been seeing some really, really good things happen there. I want to just focus for a few minutes on this map of North Campus and explain my way through this in terms of some future plans that we have in mind. If I kind of reset the clock a little bit, we just had the big opening celebration for the addition to the G.G. Brown building. That's shown at the very top center in kind of a cross-hatched pattern. That was a $46 million project that I described just a little bit a few minutes ago. We now are commencing a major renovation of the middle part of G.G. Brown. This renovation is also for mechanical engineering, and we're going to make a big part of G.G. Brown look like a brand new building. So that's underway. Another thing that will be underway very soon is actually we can see it from this room. There's a big box over here that used to house a nuclear reactor. Well, that nuclear reactor was removed and decommissioned a long time ago. And ever since then, we've been waiting for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to give us clearance to commence some construction there. So we have a full-out design to put floors in that big box of a building. And that's going to be new space for nuclear engineering, especially for faculty members working on nuclear non-proliferation, a pretty important topic. So that is something that's going to occur very soon. Now let me get started talking about what's really on this map. And I'm going to start actually a little bit to the right of that number 1. Number 1 refers to one of our priorities with our overall facilities plan, and that's what I'm going to be discussing here. One of our priorities is to create a more vibrant and engaged North Campus community. This coming summer of 2015, we're going to completely redo the North Campus diag. And if you look at it, there doesn't really seem to be anything wrong with it, but if you take a second look, there's nothing right with it either. There's a nice bell tower, and there are a bunch of sidewalks people use to transit from one building to another, but there is no community in the diag. Well, we all know on Central Campus there is a community on the diag. It's amazing to see what happens down there. We want similar things up here. So we're going to be moving around a lot of earth, creating some berms, a lot of seating, a big plaza that can serve as the stage for a huge amphitheater. We're going to put some playthings out here, a volleyball court and some other things. A lot of things to draw people in. In the wintertime, we'll be set up so if we wish, we can install an ice skating rink. And so we're going to see a lot more happening on that diag after this coming summer. But number 1, that circle itself is sitting in a place where we would love to build a new building. And some of you have heard me talk about this before. We're pretty far along with the conceptual planning. I've got a meeting with the president in just a couple of weeks. Wish me well. And if we get his approval of the general concept, then we're going to pull the trigger on this. Sitting in the area of the Circle 1 there is a building we're calling the MyQuad, the Michigan Innovation Quad. This building will contain a lot of elements of a student center because we don't have a real student center on North Campus. Will also serve as a complete ecosystem for our entrepreneurship programs. We're talking about having a huge maker space in the building where students can go in, use a lot of shop equipment, be trained on it, learn how to use it. There's a possibility that could be a public-private partnership where we have an outside entity manage it and we invite the entire Ann Arbor community in to work side by side with our students. I find that notion very appealing. We'll have a lot of arts in the building. This is a North Campus facility, not just an engineering facility. And we expect to have a lot of music rehearsal rooms and the primary dance studios for the Department of Dance. The latest notion, and I'm speaking about this as if it's really going to happen, but again, we need some approvals at the campus level. But the latest notion is to have a hotel in this building right in the middle of North Campus. So if you all come and visit, you can actually stay on North Campus. Or if it's an entrepreneur in residence for a week, you can be in this building and work directly with our students. So we're very, very excited about that concept. We feel that if we have a redesigned diag and then are able to build the MyQuad, that it will completely change what it feels like to be a student on North Campus. Item 2 is a very short one, parking solution. The Circle 1 sits on top of a parking lot, and the last thing we could do is take away more parking. So item 2 refers to the need to build a parking deck into the hillside, and if I have my way, that parking deck will be connected to the MyQuad by a big bridge, so you can just drive in and walk directly into the MyQuad. Okay, some other elements. Item 3. For item 3, we do have university approvals to proceed with this, although there's still some later stages of approval that we'll need. But we're in the design phase, and this is referred to as a robotics and transportation core. So up in the area of Circle 3, those of you who are familiar with North Campus know we've got space sciences, aerospace engineering, naval arc, and what have you. And they're doing a lot of government defense-related work. And what we would like to add to that complex is a Robotics Institute. So we actually formally have a brand new Robotics Institute, and we have a design for a brand new building that's about halfway complete now, and we expect it to go really close to where that circle number 3 is. Part of the work there will be autonomous cars and autonomous vehicles of all types, underwater, on the surface of the water, on land, in air, and in space. Will also involve coordinated robots working together. So not robots that are bolted to the shop floor and maybe painting a chassis as it comes by, but these are robots that are either completely autonomous or semi-autonomous and working together as teams. So we're very, very excited about that project and looking forward to adding that to what we do here. So we have the community piece. We have this desire to add the Robotics Institute building up in that area of campus. And then the last thing I'll mention is the Life Science and Energy Core. For those of you, again, familiar with North Campus, we have biomedical engineering in 2 buildings, this building here and that building there, the Lurie Biomed building and Gerstacker. Our current chemical engineering and material science building is the Dow building. The Dow building's very old. The Dow building is not a great laboratory building. And if we look at those 2 departments, their biggest collaborator is biomedical engineering. There is a large percentage of faculty members in chemical engineering and in material science that were working on new materials and other topics related to human health and biology. So if we have our way, we really, really want to have a brand new building for chemical engineering and material science sitting there where that circle 4 is. And then we would have a whole complex in the life science area. Now what's across the street in the northern direction? Nuclear engineering, and we have a number of faculty collaborations between material science and nuclear engineering. And then the other building across the street is the University of Michigan Energy Institute. And as you can imagine, there's a huge collaboration between the Energy Institute and chemical engineering. In fact, the director of the Energy Institute is a professor in chemical engineering. So that would make so much programmatic sense. For this building, the last one, item 4, it's going to take a lot of fundraising, and we're probably going to need to get some state money for that kind of building. It's going to be very, very expensive. So we're working on a plan with the state. That's going to take probably some years to unfold, but that gives you a longer term idea of what we'd like to do. Overall, it's not shown on this diagram, but we expect to be building out in the northeasterly direction, so to the upper right of that picture, toward the North Campus Research Complex. We already have a very heavy presence there. We have a Biointerfaces Institute at NCRC, which is joint between engineering, medicine, dentistry, and pharmacy. And just this past summer, we moved a big part of our chemical engineering department over to NCRC. They'll be over there for at least several years until we can get another solution for a new building for them. But over time, what we will see is the space between the engineering campus and NCRC filled up with buildings, and I predict a number of those will be joint activities between engineering and medicine. Engineering is the medical school's largest research partner, and they are our largest research partner. So there's a real marriage between those 2 units. This is one kind of cute thing that we have started, and we've done it just for 2 summers. The name of this program is called Explore Engineering, but I wanted everybody in this room to be aware of it. It is a program where you can drop into Ann Arbor for a day, or you can stay overnight and stay for a couple of days. There are 2 different versions of the program, and bring either your son or daughter or your grandson or granddaughter. So we have a lot of grandparents that have been showing up for this. And we put on a program with a whole lot of different things that these children are exposed to in engineering and technology. This program is receiving absolutely rave reviews. So I don't have the date with me on the program dates for this coming summer. I don't know if that's been decided yet, but keep your eyes open. This will be advertised on the Michigan Engineering website. You'll probably all get an email telling you what dates to look for, but those who have attended this are just over the moon. So keep your eye on Explore Engineering. With that, I would be happy to take any questions. That's not a comprehensive overview of what we're doing, but I think it gives you at least a little bit of a taste of where we stand and where we're headed. So thanks very much.
Our approach here is, how do you design mechanical artifacts that are strong and flexible by leveraging elasticity of materials?